What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the More Than Philly Sports Network. It's great to be here with all of you today. It is 65 degrees and sunny in Philadelphia today. It is the 10th of March in 2021. For those watching, it's probably around 7 o'clock p.m. here on the East Coast. As always, joined alongside my co-host, Gavin Tony. Gavin, what a fine day outside. I've been getting the golfing, and yes, it is back. I can talk about it here. We are overdue for our putt-putt match once again. More than likely this weekend, it's going to be nice and sunny. Something we like to see. But as always, as we start off, Gavin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Zach. Listen, it's a nice day. If I actually take myself outside and go for a nice long walk, Zach, I walk for a mile today. All right, that's unheard of for me to do that because everybody knows I'm a homebody. I'm like getting out of the house. But Zach, there's one thing that we got. We got. I guess we got to fix because of today. That cold intro we had, it doesn't fit what we got going
I was
on.
going to say, yes, no, we are going to have to get one that is updated. Stay tuned for that, everybody, as we continue to update that for those watching. Tomorrow is going to be marking 1 year since the NBA suspended play. We're going to be doing a live stream, possibly with a special guest as well, to break down the day in a nutshell as we remember it. I remember quite in detail, Gavin. Can you really believe that it's March of 2021 already? What a year it has been. The world has changed as we know it, arguably forever in some aspects. In other aspects, as we continue to have vaccination rollouts and return to normalcy, some things will return to normal. This week at the PGA in TPC Sawgrass is the Players' Championship. They played one tournament last year. One match on that Thursday, and play was suspended after that. So it's going to be quite sentimental returning to Florida for those players this week. This is an emotional time for a lot of us because we've all lived this. We are a part of living history. And again, history is not over with this pandemic. It's not over. The book is not closed anywhere near it. But we do have quite some time behind us now living through what life is like with this. And again, I mean, look, I got this a year ago. Tonight was the Flyers game against the Boston Bruins. They were on like a 10-game winning streak. They lost that game, actually. And that would be the last time that the Flyers would have fans, at least until a couple of nights ago where they had their first fans, and, of course, last night as well. I mean, we've lived through all this already. This is stuff that we remember. I'm watching news reports. These are things we watched last year. Of course, things like the president have changed when the presidential address last year versus this year. Little things like that. But I think, look, at the end of the day, some things remain the same as far as no fans and masks and things like that. And Gavin, again, I got to just tell you, it's been crazy. It's been a year. It's been a whole year. Again, tomorrow we'll get into more detail with that. But a year ago today, I was at a Flyers game with 20-some thousand people. There were plenty of COVID cases there that night. Fortunate for me not to have caught it. I was sick at the time, but I don't believe that was COVID. There were a couple people that unfortunately had caught it, but as Gavin speculates on that side. But no, in all seriousness, like we were getting food there, and everyone was on edge that night. I'm not sure, Gavin, if you had when your last. I know you said the movies that weekend before was your last taste of normalcy, but this Flyers game was for me, and everyone was on edge that night. The city of Philadelphia said, you probably shouldn't be going to games. It's not safe for you, things like that. Of course, we still had went. But, we're living history. It is it's hard to wrap your head around that it's been a year. And I think tomorrow there are going to be some things on TV just talking about this, of course, in the sports world, including on our show, and it's going to hit home. But we're a year in, 500,000 lives later. From the COVID perspective, infinite number of businesses closed forever, the travel industry destroyed. This is detrimental. If there's a word worse than that I could use, I would use it. This has been from the health side, the logistical COVID side, the actual virus side has been detrimental. From the business side, from the livelihood side, from the normalcy side. It's been something that nobody ever could have imagined. Going home from school that Friday, Gavin, the 12th, I guess it was, or 13th, Friday the 13th. Nobody expected life to change as they knew it. And it went from 2 weeks to the end of April to into the summer, returning to school, and now still virtual. Life's crazy. What are you going to do about it? This has been something very crazy. But Gavin, I'll trade it off to you again, March 10th. We'll read through this day in history. I know we did that on Monday. But yes, today's when I was at the Flyers game, the last taste of normalcy, I'd say. But Gavin, some reflections and initial thoughts from you.
Zach, you're right. The whole city was on, urge. I feel like the whole world was on urge because you hear the first positive, it was just literally, Zach, it felt like it was just coming across like a weather pattern, from west to east or sometimes south to east, but Zach, or south to north. But Zach, for me, it didn't really hit home or sense of urgency until one of our very own schools in our own school district came down with a close contact, and that's when I started to get the urgency and feeling like, yo, we really shouldn't be here because like we all know. Let's take a random guess. How many people do you think in our school? Our school is heavily populated. Zach, one of the most popular schools in the area. I'm guaranteed if you would have tested 1,000 people, we would have had at least 100 to 200 back. Now that might not seem like a lot because on 1,000, I think 800 are good, but you know that's just asymptomatic without showing any signs. But Zach, you're right. Rudy Gobert tested positive, and the sports leagues, it was like a domino effect. One league and another league and another league. And Zach, I made a joke saying Rudy Gobert really is the best defensive center of all time. I mean, he shut everything down. He shut the whole league down. Shut other leagues down. But as I digress, it was just a weird year in general. But it was a year that needed to happen too. Now, do we need to lose people on the way? No, we didn't need to lose people on the way. But I view last year as a way, and we're going to get deeper in this tomorrow, but I view last year as a way of reconnecting and taking a step back. It's like we're on a computer nonstop. It's like whether it's classes, whatever it's doing this, whatever it's for you in business meetings, whatever it's me just playing the game. We needed time to disconnect. The whole world did and just, take a breather, take a step back, look at what's been going on. I mean, it's like we're always go go go, and we forget like the things that that are still going on. It's like we saw it in June with the George Floyd murder and then the unrest in the country. Not a lot of people knew that stuff was going on because you had sports and other things that occupy it. They'll bring it up for a little bit. We talk of the news for a week, and next thing you know, it's under the rug. But Zach, when you have nothing else going on, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore the fact that the real stuff going on. You can't ignore the fact that there's still a lot of hate going on in this country. Zach, we didn't get a chance to talk about what Myers Leonard had to say. I have a major, huge problem with that, what he said, and it's not just because what he said, but it's also it goes back to a couple months ago too, Zach. I know we'll get into a little bit off the show before we present on here, but I kind of view last year. I mean, there's some positive things. We brought up some issues that still go on, Zach. Some good things came out academic wise. If you're not a fan of the SAT, ACT, some schools waived that. That's it was pretty good. But you're right, Zach. Normalcy would never be the same. It would never feel the same, Zach. We're gonna be wearing masks for a long time, and then it's gonna be personal preference. Masks used to be one of those things where you wear a mask, you're normally doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. But now masks are so normalized that you can walk into a bank wearing a mask. Before that was it's like that was a no.
I mean, yeah, a year ago, if you walked into a bank with a mask on, you'd probably be a little bit suspicious of you. But in all seriousness, no, let's look at it, Gavin. March 10th, 2020, a date in history. Again, Philadelphia Flyers played the Boston Bruins that night, 70th day of the year last year. A couple other things of note. Italy itself had pretty much been on lockdown at this point. The cruise ship, I believe it was a Grand Princess. I don't count me on that, but a Princess Line cruise ship had docked in California with about 20 people on board that were sick with the coronavirus, and they brought them off. And for those who needed it, were admitted to hospitals. Just looking down the list, entire country in lockdown in Italy. The North Carolina governor had spoke about it. They also had closed one of their academies for the day. And then just across the entire list, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, for those who pay attention to stocks, on Monday, the 8th, it was called Black Monday. It dropped over, I think, 2,000 points almost, maybe a little bit more than that. It actually got down to close to 18,000 last year. The Dow Jones had a bounce back day this day then. Of course, it went up and down since then, and now it's up to 32,000 again. Whether it's true or not, that's a conversation for possibly a stock show coming in the future. Just kidding, but possibly one that I'm not going to give too much advice on that. But again, some sports of note: the Philadelphia Phillies had beat the Minnesota Twins 5-1. I just thought that was pretty cool, but of course, that wasn't too important. But looking through it as well, some conversations about delays in testing in Washington State when the first coronavirus was about 2 months prior to this almost. And then, that seems to be the big news of the day. Of course, tomorrow, just looking forward, it's going to look like I have quite the mouthful to read for tomorrow. But that's what March 10th in a nutshell was just 1 year ago. Italy was in lockdown. Conversations of lockdowns were happening in the United States. Schools were still open. People were not wearing masks at this point. And, testing was lagging and delayed, but testing was starting to become a thing in the United States. And then, of course, tomorrow we kind of know what happened, and we'll break that down when the time comes. But that's what this day looked like. About 365, 366 days since it was a leap year days ago.
Well, Zach, it's crazy that you brought the mask weren't wearing it because Zach, we weren't wearing masks for a little bit into the pandemic. Remember, things were
Like
shut down.
early April, I'd say. I'd say early April is when it was.
Early April, they started enforcing the mask rule, and ladies and gentlemen, and that's but it went as a snap of fingers. Zach, I remember I was doing MLK Day of Service with a group, and we were going out serving the community, and that was in early in the year. Then fast forward to later, and I'm sitting at home and I still, haven't been into the school building. I still don't believe I will. Zach, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. But no, it's crazy how just in a snap of a finger things can just go from good to I don't want to say bad because Zach, I mean we're still here. I mean we knock on wood that we didn't lose our life because of it, but for others it went from good or from great to really bad and worse to be exact. But it is crazy, snap of a finger.
I mean, of course, we live this every day. I don't think there's ever been an event in history that has been talked about in the news as frequent as this. There's been nothing in the news, there's been no event where all day, every day, everything we do ties back to the pandemic. You're doing class on Zoom because of COVID. You're wearing a mask in a grocery store because of COVID. Can't go to a Phillies game, not because they suck, but because of COVID.
Well, I mean, hold on, wait a minute. It might be the first list. I mean, come on now. We know how bad the team is. Go on.
But no, I mean, look. In all seriousness, it affects our lives every day. I know our monologue today ran a little bit short, about 12 minutes or so. But tomorrow we're going to break it down a lot more because it was a substantial event in human history that will never be forgotten. And for us, we didn't like anyone like us who's been in the sports world. You knew that a virus was spreading. But it didn't hit home for sports fans until Rudy Gobert tested positive. But if I read today, Seattle had ordered test kits and they're testing today. And then, of course, Rudy Gobert, who had reported symptoms, got tested probably today, I'd say. And then it came back positive tomorrow. And, of course, we know how the domino effect was. But coming up after this, we are going to begin with our main conversation of the day. The Dallas Cowboys. As an Eagles fan, I'm happy today. They made a terrible mistake signing Dak Prescott. I'll explain why after this.
We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewer's choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. Enjoy today's episode.
Russell Wilson's getting paid $38 million a year. Listed the Dallas Cowboys as an interested team for him. Cowboys then signed Dak Prescott to a 4-year, $160 million deal. First of all, Dak Prescott won this deal. Good for him for holding his ground and good for his agent. He got the 4-year deal that he wanted last year. He got a very handsome contract, $123 million guaranteed, no tag clause and no trade clause in there as well. Just reading the details here. $66 million signing bonus, averaging 42 a year over the first 3 seasons, with $75 million in this first season, of course, the majority of that coming from a bonus. 27 years old, the only quarterback from the 2016 draft class still on and starting for the original team that drafted him. Thrown into the game after Tony Romo had suffered an injury in preseason, was part of his team, led his team to a 13-3 record and a divisional loss to the Green Bay Packers. Not his fault. They played a very good game offensively. And since then, it's been a very rocky ship of mediocrity. Nothing special that I've seen. Dak Prescott is not a top 5 quarterback in this league. He's top 10, without a doubt in my mind. You keep yourself out of trouble. You do the basics. You do that stuff. You're a top 10 quarterback. That shows you how bad some of the quarterbacks in this league are. But he's 8, 9. I put him right there. He's better than Matt Ryan, in my opinion. Better than Kirk Cousins, in my opinion. They both got big money. So why not him? Well, Gavin, he got the big money that you were crying for. And we both were, because one injury, it could take it all away. But you were talking about before how Jared Goff got his money when he didn't deserve it. Dak Prescott got his. The standard for paying quarterbacks remains the same with Dak Prescott. It's not different. However, I'm still not thrilled with it, but I'm never thrilled with paying anybody. So that's just my initial perspective.
Listen, if you're a running back, you're not getting paid if you play for Zach. If you're a quarterback, you get like $50 playing for no. But no, listen, Zach, when it comes to Dak Prescott situation, I have 3 takeaways. My first one, is going back to our first show, Zach. Our first actual topic on our show was, should Dak Prescott be paid? And what was the first thing I said? I said yes, he does, and here's why. Dak Prescott is a player that you want to have on your team. Great role model off the field. Great everything he stands for off the field. You hear him never get in trouble. Zach, the only trouble I hear Dak Prescott getting into is his brother always arguing Get Up on ESPN every morning because he wants to defend his brother. That's fine. But that's not Dak Prescott. But when you look at Dak Prescott, you look how the team rallies around him. Zach, when he went out for that game, what happened? They ended up winning the game. I know they should have no business winning the game, and Dalton did not look that great. But it's like they rallied behind him. Zeke had his best game, and I know that because fancy owner. But when you listen, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to get into that. But Zach, my second takeaway is this: the Cowboys can't pay nobody else for a long time. That means guys like CeeDee Lamb is going to hit the free agency market. I don't know how you're going to pull it off because Zach, you don't have money no more. Jerry Jones really screwed this one up, ladies and gentlemen. But I do know this. If Jerry wants you around, or if Jerry knows when he has to give in. Zach, remember when Emmitt Smith was held out and the Cowboys go 0-2 and then he pays Emmitt Smith and he becomes the highest paid running back? He realized that he needed Emmitt Smith. Jimmy Johnson needed Emmitt Smith. He didn't know what was wrong. He knew what the problem was, and Jerry Jones goes to pay Emmitt Smith. What happens now? Zach, Dak Prescott probably wasn't going to play at all this year. You go out and you pay him because you don't want to repeat whatever happened back in the day. And my final takeaway, Zach, and I'll hand it to you, is the Cowboys set this man up for life. Zach, if Dak Prescott gets tagged for a third time, you know they had to come. Any team has to come out of their pocket almost on $100 million. It's the same. I was reading into a little bit in ESPN earlier this morning that the Dallas Cowboys basically set Dak Prescott for life. Whether another team takes him or whether they try to tag him, he's set. This man won. He stood his ground. It looked ugly at some times, Zach. Especially after the
I thought it would have. I thought it would have gotten ugly.
I thought it would have got ugly, Zach, but he won. And we have to realize he won. And I'm gonna hand it to you. But my next point is it worth Patrick Mahomes' money? I don't believe so. But go ahead.
No, he's not worth that much money. For starters, the cap will be $182.5 million this year, down about $10 million from last year. The Cowboys have put themselves in a tough situation. But I'll be honest with you, you have Zeke for 3 more seasons at least before you can actually cut him and get some money back from what his contract owes you. We'll see if that gets ugly or not. But down the line, Amari Cooper for at least 4 more years. Michael Gallup for at least 2 more, possibly 3. CeeDee Lamb for 3 more, possibly 4. Of course, the rookie deal with the 1 option. The O-line is the only issue on that offense, really. Can they be healthy? Can they find the right pieces? They're going to need some young guys to shine. And then the defense will need to be there. Your offense is set. You got your quarterback, your running back, your wide receivers, your tight end. Honestly, I like their tight end. They're kind of underrated. But that defense is bad. And that's going to be where the money's going to have to go now. But when you're giving a guy $40-some million a year against the cap, it's going to become really difficult to build that defense, and you're going to see it over the next 4 or 5 years. The Cowboys made a horrible mistake because they gave in on this. They gave in because they probably felt like they were fighting a losing battle, and at this point, you're better off paying them and seeing what you can do. But they pretty much conceded the next 4 years, not because of anything against Dak Prescott, but the team is not equipped enough to be able to shell out that much money. Miami, Indianapolis, yeah, they could afford to pay their quarterback $30+ million a year because they have the other pieces in place and the cap is fine. But the Cowboys' cap is bad, and the team as a whole is bad. Remember that. Their defense was historically awful last year, no matter how good your quarterback is. And I like Dak Prescott, good guy, good player. No matter how good they are on that side of the ball, the other side of the ball matters. And more importantly, the O-line matters. And with those guys getting up there in age, their Super Bowl window is another year or 2. It doesn't mean that they're going to be a contender, but their window is the next 2 years. That's kind of where I have to leave it.
Zach, he has the second highest quarterback contract right behind Pat Mahomes. Now, why does that bug me? Because Pat Mahomes has 8 playoff games, 6 comebacks, 7 game winning drives. Patrick Mahomes is a Super Bowl champion, an MVP. He just went 15-1 this past year. Zach, if he had an offensive line and there wasn't such an emotional tragedy that happened days before the Super Bowl, he would be a 2-time champion. Zach, he would be a 3-time if his defense doesn't go off sides. Who knows? So you look at Pat Mahomes, just like I can see where that money's coming from. Then you look at the guy next, Dak Prescott. Okay, let's think about it. Dak Prescott, what has he done? All right, Zach, you got it. He had the one nice year, his rookie season, him and Zeke. I think that was more Zeke than him. You take over Tony Romo, Jerry's best friend, who he paid for a little while after he retired. Okay, what after that? Goes to the playoff. He wins a couple of games and he loses a couple of games. Zach, nothing too much special. Looks pretty much average. He can't beat a winning team to save his life. We saw it last year, 2 years ago to be exact, because it was a new league year. But Zach, when you talk about Dak Prescott and Patrick Mahomes, they're not in the same level. Zach, they're not even in the same city, nor the same atmosphere. Zach, you name it, they're nowhere near each other. When you talk about Patrick Mahomes, you talk about a guy that when you put him on the field, he automatically is going to make your guys better. You automatically are going to win games no matter what. Zach, if you would have put Dak Prescott in Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes in Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys would have won a lot more games than they did this year. And that's not fair to Dak because he got injured. So let's say last year, they would have won more games than they did last season than they did this past season. Like if you put Dak in Kansas City, they have great weapons, but they don't win 15 games. But let's be honest, they don't win 15 games. When you're paying a guy like that much money, he not only has to be a special talent himself, but he has to have everybody else on your offense, not your defense, on your offense, where his presence matters. Zach, when Pat Mahomes goes down in a playoff game versus the Browns, and we're like, oh, is it over? Yes, we know Tyreek Hill and Chad Henne, but does that matter? If without Pat Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs won't be Super Bowl favorites like they are every year. Zach, I don't know what the early rankings were. I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay has it. But Zach, we know what Patrick Mahomes brings to the table. I look at Dak Prescott, I said, what have you bring to the table? That means elevating. We know what you bring. We saw it this past season. But what do you bring elevating your guys to a whole nother level? I don't see it. I really don't see it.
Look, the reason you pay a guy a lot of money, you're pretty much saying that you can do this yourself. You can throw this team on your back when they need to be. Of course, it goes to a certain point. In ideal situations, your O-line is healthy and things like that. If you look at the Dallas Cowboys' first and second quarter statistics, they're so bad with Prescott in. He drops a lot of yards in the third and fourth quarter. They're good at doing that. That's about it. They're a slow start team. Blame who you want, coaching, quarterback, whatever. But don't use the stats against me. If he was on pace for 6,000 yards, just forget it. Look at the score of some of those games, and you'll see why he was throwing so much. And that's kind of where I stand on that. I think that stats are irrelevant when it comes to this argument because I can go back and look at if you look at enough stats, then yes, you can make an argument for why Prescott wasn't worth the money. But if you look at the basic stats, the yards per game, the touchdowns, whatever, you'll never understand why Prescott isn't an elite quarterback. However, it'll be fun to see how the Cowboys do the next 2-3 years because they have no money for that defense, and that defense is horrible.
It's like the one thing that makes Patrick Mahomes great is that his defense is also great too. It's like they have some moments where they don't look that great, but when you have Tyrann Mathieu, who's an absolute stud in the secondary, and you got Chris Jones who can push the pocket, and you have some edge rushers, the linebackers are a little bit questionable, and your corners are suspect at some points. But Zach, that defense is great enough to win a Super Bowl. We saw it versus San Francisco when you had Tyrann Mathieu question manhood everybody. Now you could say it was, Kyle Shanahan doing Kyle Shanahan things, forgetting what he actually is good at, which is running the football. But Zach, call it what you want. The Chiefs defense is better than Cowboys defense. I mean, Zach, we talk about Dak Prescott dropping yards and being the best and completions and all that. His stats are inflated. Zach, you're right. They're always playing from behind because his defense gives a lot. And Zach, they're giving up. They had a lot of turnovers in the beginning of the year. I remember they led the NFL in turnovers at the start of the year. Zach, they had more turnovers in the first half of the game than they did in the second half of the game. Also, too, Zach, my final point is this. You paid Dak all this money. So now your thinking is this. It's Super Bowl or bust. And us as Eagles fans, we know darn well they're not going to the Super Bowl, Zach. It'll be, look, there'll be a lot of things will happen before they would get in there. I mean, go to the Super Bowl. It's like I would get into Harvard before they go to the Super Bowl, and I'm not on Harvard level, but it's like when you pay a guy that money, the expectation of Super Bowl, and that defense is horrible. They're not getting to the Super Bowl. There's almost so much offense can do. We see with the Brooklyn Nets. You got so much offense, but it's scoring 140, 120 a night. That gets tiring after a while. Dak Prescott throwing for 400 yards a game. That gets tiring after a while. Trying to put up 50 points to win. That gets tiring after a while. I like to say this is going to work out. It's not going to. I like Dak Prescott. I like everything he stands for. But him winning a Super Bowl, that's not going to happen. But him getting his contract, I like that. And he's set up for the long haul. But the defense is terrible, Zach. It is what it is.
We saw with the Seahawks early in the year, the offense did too much work, defense did no work, and it burns out your offense. By the end of the year, coming up after this in our final 4 minutes, when does the talent acquisition stop in Brooklyn? Blake Griffin going to the Brooklyn Nets. Is it really a big deal? I really don't think so. I have a similar opinion to that of with the J.J. Watt situation. Here are thoughts on this as basketball returns tonight after these messages.
Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this.
Welcome back here on the More Than Philly Sports Network. Our final discussion of the day, Blake Griffin signing with the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, cool. The Lob City was 5-10 years ago. Nice to see you. Big name, doesn't do much, doesn't play defense either. Big name. That's about it. That's kind of where I have to leave it. I think the starting lineup will still look the same. Kyrie, Harden, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, and then whoever you put it big. DeAndre Ayton would be a name that scares me, but same old. Cool. Congratulations. I'm still not impressed until I actually watch them, and they actually look really good. But on paper, they're a great team. Steve Nash seems to be handling things well there. They should be the favorite in the Eastern Conference right now. But with that being said, I think Philly, Milwaukee, Miami, and Boston's on the way up as well are all still teams that have a fair shot at this, especially in the 7-game series. But yes, Blake Griffin to the Brooklyn Nets. Gavin, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy that he didn't go join your best friend LeBron James because I didn't want to see LeBron James get anybody. I hope he doesn't get Andre Drummond. I know the GM's the best GM in the league. There's no topping him. All right, I get that, Zach. I mean, you miss one shot and you're traded. I mean, you might as well just start packing your bags. As soon as you airball, you're gone.
He did send Jordan Clarkson away. Maybe that wasn't a good move.
And did trade away Brandon Ingram.
You got 80 for that, so I'm not going to be too upset.
Well, I mean, you could have Brandon Ingram and 80. Remember, Kyle Kuzma was going to be part of the deal. Zach, back to Blake Griffin. Look, he's not what he used to be. Zach, he can't jump for nothing. He barely jumped for joy. Zach, when he got traded, he probably couldn't even jump off the ground. He can't do anything. But if you're telling me that you can't get a half decent Blake Griffin, if you go back to 2018 Blake Griffin, where he was giving you 24 points. All right, so let's think about it. Maybe not 2018. Maybe what about 2019? He gave you 15 points, 4.7 rebounds. Zach, you don't need a dominant scorer. He doesn't need to score. You just need someone to grab rebounds to beef up your interior defense.
Play defense.
Zach,
which he doesn't do either. So.
He doesn't do that, but Zach, if you can stop the bleeding in the paint, that's what the problem was. You couldn't stop the bleeding in the paint. Defense, at some point, you got to think about it. You can get all the best defenders in the world. Kawhi Leonard, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James on the chase down block. All right, Klay Thompson on the perimeter. You can get all those guys, and there's probably some more, but you can get all those guys. But defense is a mindset, Zach. Defense is a mindset. You got to want to stop somebody. Ben Simmons is one of the underrated defenders because everybody wants to talk about how bad his shooting is. No one gives him credit for defense. Ben is a two-way slasher. Zach, that's 2K for basically slashing and slashing defense. But if you can get Blake Griffin to just play defense in the paint, Zach, I feel like this move was basically to slow down Joel Embiid because they know if Joel Embiid versus Brooklyn in the paint, it's going to be a field day for Joel Embiid. They don't have nobody. I don't like DeAndre Jordan that much anymore. He's too old. If you can just get a 2019 Blake Griffin, you'll be fine. And he doesn't have to score that much.
I agree. I think that they do need some defensive players on that side. It's going to be trouble for them. But again, until the Sixers play them, we don't know what it's going to look like. Some final notes for today. Joel Embiid still at the top of the key MVP ladder, and Ben Simmons still above the key defensive player of the year ladder. So 2 exciting areas to look at there, as well as possibly Doc Rivers, a coach of the year, and even Daryl Morey at executive of the year. We'll cover all that and more as the season continues to progress. With that being said, everybody, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow with an exciting preview of what it's going to look like. We had it earlier here in today's monologue. We're looking forward to it. 3/11/2020, a day we will never forget. And we'll go from there. In all seriousness, though, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today here on the More Than Philly Sports Network. We appreciate all of you for your support. Until next time, have a good one.
Have a good one, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts of our videos. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.